Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Fun and Games Podcast. I'm Geoff Moonen.
And I'm Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon.
And we are recording this episode fresh on the heels of a video game convention in Secaucus, New Jersey at the Meadowlands Exposition Center.
So yeah, this was a convention that we were both originally supposed to attend, but like a dummy, I forgot it was the weekend of my father's 70th birthday, so I was with him. But Geoff ended up covering the event, and so we're going to chat a little bit, I being the foil, as it were, for the audience, and having not a lot of information on it. I'm going to chat with Geoff about what was at the convention, the highlights, what he enjoyed, what he saw, things like that, and hopes that maybe in future years, you loyal listeners will go to the convention as well.
Yeah, it's a fantastic convention, and this is the first year it's been at the Meadowlands. The last few years, it has been at the Boys and Girls Club, and I cannot remember which town. But
really,
it was in a Boys and Girls Club. Like it took over the whole thing. The panels were in like the little classroomy kind of areas. The vendors were in one gymnasium, and the like performance stage was the other gymnasium that also had all of the arcade games and free play games. So it was kind of an interesting sort of divide. They made a lot of good sense about it, but the fact that they could now use the exposition center meant it was all under one roof. The panel rooms were just offset from that main area. It was all there, and I took a couple of pictures as I came in. I am not an experienced member of the press. I'm proud of the fact that I took maybe 5 pictures this whole weekend. I'll do better next time, and we'll do better at future conventions. I was just happy to be there to promote it and happy to be talking about it now, and I'm very excited about if this becomes a permanent home for them because it felt like a great fit.
well, also, we applied for a press pass from a video game con under the auspices of a podcast. So this is the medium. So we are an audio, not necessarily visual medium. But if any members of a video game con are listening, we are awesome press people and we will cover the hell out of your event.
Yes.
But in all seriousness, I'm happy to chat about the con anyway because I'm bummed that I missed out on a lot of stuff. I've heard tale and legend of this con because one of the YouTubers I follow, some call me Johnny, often does like game or grab bags, and like he'll just take a bunch of random games that he found at the convention and do videos highlighting them. And so I was always interested to see what kind of stuff you could find at this convention.
Oh, very cool. I like that. And, well, I kind of had a reverse version of that because, well, this is a bit of a story time. I alluded to it a little before we started recording, Matt. So when Sarah and I got married, we had an 8-bit video game themed wedding. And our really cutesy idea for the guest book was we went to a play-in trade and just went, here's $50. Give us all of the shovelware Game Boy Advance games you are never going to sell. And we got a big old Ziploc bag full of them. We got maybe 100 games. And we covered them with little blue labels from a medical supply website that was the perfect same exact size as the Game Boy Advance game label. We got ourselves a little book safe, like one of those things you can get at Staples that looks like a book on the shelf, but you open it up and it contains things. And so we asked people to write nice little messages and put it in the guest book. Now, this was cute and very heartfelt, and we have a very full guest book of wonderful well wishes. We actually go back and look at it every now and again, but we didn't use all of them. So we've had for nearly 4 years a Ziploc bag full of, I want to say about 30 or so Game Boy Advance games that no reputable vendor is going to take.
Right.
And I say reputable vendor in the sense of like, well, GameStop doesn't sell Game Boy Advance games. And most independent stores aren't going to be like, I can't put a price tag on this. Not only is it That's So Raven 2, not only is it 4 copies of That's So Raven 2, they're not even the original labels. Completionists aren't going to want this, and no one else is going to want this. Maybe a few people. The market is narrow. They wouldn't want to sell it. However, there was an absolutely fantastic vendor that was doing a kind of cool, I want to say, lottery. Or you paid $5. They gave you 5 6-sided die and had a dice tower. You would throw the dice in, and based on the number, you got something for free.
Huh.
Like low to mid numbers were a free random what have you. Like if it was a 17, it was a free N64 game. If it was a 16, it was a free PS2 game. A 15 was a free strategy guide. I'm arbitrarily picking, but it was stuff like that.
Right.
Sarah rolled it on Saturday. Sarah typically rolls better than me in D&D, and she got a random PS2 game, and we are now the proud owners of Medal of Honor.
Nice.
Yeah, I've never played it before. Why not? And then we were talking to them. I'm doing terrible press coverage, and I can't remember the vendor's name. I will tweet about it when this episode goes up because I know Sarah saved the picture. It was the proprietors named Phil and Lorraine. They were so cool. We ended up talking about Star Wars tabletop for a while. We definitely brought up Scruffy Nerf Herders, and they've been running a game for like 5 years, and the stories were amazing.
Nice.
And we told them like, hey, we have these cartridges. Would you like them? We don't want anything for them. Just you can give them away with purchases. You can make them as part of the raffle. We feel like you'll do something with them. They're like, yeah, of course, bring them over. So we brought it on Sunday. We're chatting this and that, and Phil just goes, do you want to just do a free roll? Yeah, absolutely. And so I did a roll, and it was a high number. So they kind of had a couple of games on display, like the nicer sort of games. Mm-hmm. Like I think a copy of Chrono Trigger for the DS was there. And anytime one of them's the one, they replace it with another of that tier. So I am now also the proud owner of Populous for PS1, a very nice little strategy RPG.
Nice.
Yeah, the real-time strategy RPG hybrid thing. It's very cool. I don't know a ton about it, but I've seen it come up on a lot of lists and like underrated gems articles. So I'm very excited to try it out. And that's the kind of goofiness that kind of goes on at these conventions.
That's pretty awesome. I meant to ask you, because I know you are an experienced con goer and you've gone to a bunch of stuff. How does this rank? Not necessarily rank, because it's not necessarily competition, but like as far as enjoyment levels and crowdedness, like how did this convention hold up against others you've been to?
Well, to be fair, I have not been to a ton of video game only conventions.
Right.
But I've been to plenty of conventions that are nerd themed that have a lot of video game aspects, and just as a con in general, it was not too crowded. At no point was it crowded. That's not to say there weren't attendees. There were plenty of. But they had a big enough space. They had enough staff and volunteers going on. Like, maybe you had to wait a couple of turns before you could play one of the arcade games, or, you'd have to wait a few minutes to go in, like, get up close to one of the vendor tables, but that's okay. At no point did I feel like I was getting overwhelmed, like I was claustrophobic, like I was having bad sensory overload or anything like that. It allowed me and Sarah and some friends of ours that joined us on Sunday to go at our own pace, and it was great. And especially because since it was all in that one room, like towards the back, all the way across was like from wall to wall, the back half was all the vendors, all of the other media folk and what have you that had their own booths and tables. And towards the front, there was the arcade games, and there were rows and rows of consoles that were in these neat little cages, so nobody could futz around with them. And Sarah liked to say it so they couldn't escape, and that's probably true as well. They wouldn't walk off. When you have a Neo Geo AES sitting there, you don't want it to walk off.
Right, exactly.
But it's not like you can charge for, put money into a console anyway. But if, hey, that Neo Geo AES is open, it's got Samurai Spirits in there. Sit down, play a couple of rounds. You take your own time there. Or, there's Crash Bandicoot over there. There's Sonic 2 happening over there. There's this Dreamcast shooter that is entirely in Japanese that I don't recognize. And I recognize a few of them. And so you could kind of hop around very fluidly, very effortlessly. And it was great.
Yeah, it sounds like that it was equal parts shopping and experience and like engagement.
It felt a lot like a good celebration of gaming. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not a big enough convention to be, we have guests of honor and we need to really push for this. And there's nothing wrong with that. But because they don't have a guest of honor agenda or anything like that, I feel like some of the biggest celebrities they had there was James Rolfe, the angry video game nerd. Mm-hmm. And there's a couple of other YouTube folk that were there, and some of the gentlemen that are frequently on the Metal Jesus Rocks YouTube channel. Mm-hmm. Those are definitely ones where I saw, I'm like, wait a minute, where do I know them? Metal Jesus, yes! and got to chat with them. Everybody's super nice. Everybody's very chill. I can't remember if the gaming historian was there this year. He was there last year. I got to chat with him. And again, it's that level of there's no forward-facing agenda. It's not like the sort of place where you are, you're not getting major video game developers showing up here and you're, lining up to try out their new thing. But plenty of independent game developers were there as well. So you could try out some of their stuff. I mean, it felt a lot more, I don't want to say homegrown, but it kind of did. And in a really nice way. It is definitely one of my favorite conventions to go to. It's why I've gone every year.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of dodging around it, but it's essentially not become what New York Comic Con has been, since I can safely say they will probably never invite us to be press at that event.
Exactly.
That was something that I did press under Crash Course for many years, and then when it got too big for its own britches, it stopped accepting my press application.
Oh, yeah, no. New York Comic Con is just interested in stuffing as much high content, high whatever, there can't be any room to breathe. There cannot be any room allowed to breathe at all.
My next question actually is based on a photo that you posted on our Instagram account. You can find us Fun and Games Podcast on Instagram. Mm-hmm. You were posting about soda. So tell me a little bit more about this soda that you got to experience at a video game con.
Oh, you mean Wild Bill's?
I do mean Wild Bill's.
Wild Bill's Old-Fashioned Soda Pop Company, established 2002, as I'm reading out of the mug that I am currently drinking out of right now. If I had a video right now, I'd be shilling like a mother right here. So what it is I had never seen them at a convention before, and they certainly weren't at a video game con last year. Mm-hmm. I talked to Tony, certainly one of the head honchos, and they apparently do all sorts of conventions of all shapes and sizes. What they are not necessarily like a food truck or a food vendor. What they are is a merchandise booth. They sell their proprietary mugs, and they are like big old aluminum mugs. Like the cheapest one's $15, but I have the $20 one. I actually just measured out how much it holds before recording. Mm-hmm. Holds about 32 ounces. This is a big old liter mug. I say big old a lot, and it suits it, because you buy the mug, and then they give you a wristband, and they then, next to that little spot where you buy it, have a couple of soda taps, with a barrel facade to it, and a label. So they got root beer, diet root beer, vanilla cream soda, black cherry, orange soda, grape soda, sarsaparilla, and seltzer. And for the rest of the day, free soda. Bring your mug, in the mug, only the mug, free soda. Want to combine all the flavors? Go for it. Want to just stand there and just keep drinking soda? You got it. There was another booth there, but we picked Wild Bill's because they had seltzer. And I'm not a huge soda drinker. I like soda, but I am not the Mountain Dew and Doritos kind of gamer. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's just not who I am.
Right.
And having the seltzer there, I have never been so hydrated at a convention in my life.
Right. It's actually very smart.
It was very smart. And I went there the first day, because normally you get it one day. And you come the next day, it only costs $5 to get a new wristband. So at the most, you could spend there for one person if you buy their double-walled, insulated metal cup so it doesn't sweat on the outside for $25, a $5 metal straw, and then another $5 the next day. That's as much as you need to pay, and it was just free soda all weekend.
I mean, considering how much at a convention you pay for food and drink, that's not a bad deal,
It was so fantastic. They are not sponsoring me or us in any way, but Nope. By gum, they kept me alive.
What would you say was the craziest thing or most interesting thing you saw all weekend?
Most interesting thing? Well, I didn't go to a lot of the panels.
Right.
There was a lot of fun things. I took part in one of the console tournaments.
Mm-hmm. Which one?
Katamari Damacy.
Nice.
And that was always, it was kind of fun because, again, they don't have little rooms, so there's just a spot where it says console tournament, and off you go.
Right.
And most interesting thing, it was just a lot of little moments.
Right.
A lot of fun little moments, getting a chance to chat with all the different vendors, kind of find out what they're about, finding weird little things. Definitely had a lot of little fun moments for me.
Right.
Like whether a find of one kind or something else.
Was there a particular find that you're proud of most of all the things you got to bring home?
Yes. I don't think I should be proud of. Well, I've got two things. Two things.
Okay.
One I'm actually proud of, and one I should not be, but don't stop me.
Okay.
The former is a Game Boy Player boot disc, which if anybody has a Game Boy Player, I feel like 90% of you do not have the disc.
Right.
Because the GameCube that we have is Sarah's, and it was the one that was like in her basement, or her cousin had it, and people didn't take care of stuff, and so they lost the disc. And this is just what happened. And I found out talking to one of the other vendors who worked for GameStop at the time that, again, this is secondhand knowledge, but this is what I was told, that at the time GameStop just kind of went, well, we're not selling this stuff anymore, just trash it. So there's probably a good deal of a discrepancy of actual boot discs versus the Game Boy players themselves. It certainly has felt that way as I've tried to find them because it's so easy to find. Most game stores, most secondhand game stores, used game, whatever, have some kind of Game Boy player in stock. Rarer is finding the disc. Even rarer than that is the disc for sale on its own.
Right.
Most of the time you are lucky if you can find the Game Boy player and the boot disc for $60. Mm-hmm. Odds are closer to $80, and those were most of the finds that we saw at the convention. And then we came upon a guy who he has his own YouTube channel about like retro collecting. He is like, kind of live tweets and does live video of himself, like going to garage sales, going to all kinds of things. His Instagram is Firespin Gaming.
Mm-hmm.
And so we now follow him on Instagram. He was a very cool dude. And he had just the boot disc for $50. And that morning, Sarah and I looked at each other and went, what do we want? We want the Game Boy player disc. This wasn't like a chant, what do we want? When do we want it? It was like, okay, what are the things that we're gonna just like caution to the wind if it's this much? And we both went Game Boy player boot disc, $50. Found it exactly. It was, serendipity or what have you. It was great. The thing I have no business being proud of. So last year at a video game con, when you first went into the Boys and Girls Club, or was it PAL maybe? It was a PAL. I'm sorry. I've been misrepresenting this convention. I'm sorry. And you'd go in and, your little check-in area, and there were a couple of boxes that were just like $1, $2. These, I think they were like staff members, volunteers just clearing out their closet. Like random AC adapters, empty game cases, instruction manuals, whatever. I found a Game Boy case, like one of those soft cushioned cases.
Right.
And it was black with pink writing. And it had like the old Nintendo Game Boy, like it's like it is on the brick, and all of the accompanying accessories. And you open it up and it is that same hot pink inside. It's like it's the inside of a mouth or something. It's beautiful. It's got two zippers. You open one up and it just is all for games. You open the other one up, you can fit the big old Game Boy in there and a whole nother set of games. I just loved it. It was $2, so I had to get it. I didn't have to, but I had to.
So now you have a $2 Game Boy travel case that's hot pink.
It's hot pink accents and hot pink on the inside. It's so fetch. And so we're walking around the vendor the vendor aisles, and we see a fanny pack.
Oh no!
That says Game Boy in pink writing.
Oh no!
On a black fanny pack with pink piping. It's not pink on the inside, but it matched. It was $10. I now have a $12 match set of Game Boy Couture.
But see, now you have to, well, A, take photos of this and post it online if you haven't already. But B,
I'm working on it.
You have to have your wife take photos of you modeling it couture style for the website as well.
Oh, yeah. You're saying this like this isn't the plan. I'm glad we're on the same page.
That is excellent.
And that same booth had all kinds of there was a pile that was just you couldn't organize it. It was instruction manuals. It was like the sort of things that you get in the box that you buy a game, but it has nothing to do with the game. There was a Ziploc bag that just had memory cards, so I bought another PS1 memory card. I'm not sorry. And amongst those things, there was also, as a Game Gear kid, I remember getting the like little fold-out poster that was in every game. They advertised different games, but I think like one of them was Eternal Champions, another was Jurassic Park. And on the other side, it had like little preview screens or little like shots of Genesis, Game Gear, and Sega CD games. And it was how I was introduced to a lot of games that I've still never played. And I'll see them sometimes and go, I only know that because of one picture. And we're chatting with the owner and his wife, and it was just like, they were like $2 each, but we bought the fanny pack and a memory card. He's like, that's going to be $20. Just take those two. You're fine, man.
Nice.
And it's not like we're going there to haggle hard or anything, but it's
Right.
fun those times when you find a thing, you chat about it, and it's just really good to hear everybody's story, see what's going on. I mean, I definitely got to give a shout out, like in the first 20 minutes, couldn't have been 20 minutes, I'm just being generous, of our first day, we ran into, Sarah and I have a favorite New Jersey video game store.
Right. You've told me about this.
Level 1 Games
Mm-hmm.
in Wayne, New Jersey on Route 23. They're fantastic. We're super happy that they are not only surviving but thriving. And we ran into Cynthia, one of the owners. She also lives in the city, so we can always like chat about the commute and what's going on in town and everything else. And it's kind of nice that she's got the reverse of what we grew up with as far as the commute goes.
Right.
Because I grew up in Wayne, and so it was just it's good to see how things were going on there. And we ran into a lot of really cool Twitch streamers. There's a couple of guys that were from the channel Retromaniacs that do just retro video game streaming, and they ran a panel on it. And I definitely went to that because I kind of got the itch. I think I'm going to start doing it again. And I got some really great information, and they're really cool dudes.
I think it's funny also, like talking about retro games really quick, a slight tangent. So as of when we're recording this, by the time you hear it, the Switch online setup will have been live for 2 days. And something that me and Geoff talked about in a previous episode that's now looking like it's coming to fruition is they're going to give you access to, starting like on day one, like 30-something Nintendo games with an ever-growing library. So now it is clear as a bell to me why the Nintendo... The things we complained about in previous episodes about Nintendo not releasing a way to play old game like cartridges is making way more sense. Because if they're eventually going to release the entire library of Nintendo games on the Switch, which they might, of course they're not going to let you buy the physical copy somewhere else from a reseller. They want your money.
Yeah.
And so while I don't necessarily approve of it, that makes sense. So I'm really glad that something like a video game con exists, so you can get that older stuff and you can commiserate and or find companionship with other folks who are into and want to collect the same things.
It is a big feeling of coming home in a lot of ways, not just because I've been to the convention so many times, but because of the fact that it's, to put it as well as I can, it's our people. It's our people, it's our community. And on that same note of, Nintendo wants your money, and we've been talking about, and a lot of folks have been talking about losing gaming history in a lot of ways, things that get left behind. It's really great that there are people who, for conventions, bring their collections, their old systems. I collect a lot of things. I do not have the money to start collecting for the Neo Geo in any way, shape, or form. Maybe the Neo Geo Pocket Color. There's only 82 games for it. Maybe I could take out a small loan. I don't know. But for a Neo Geo, I can't do that. But it's important. It was a long supported console. I think it had like 14 years of support from SNK.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and whether you're doing the MVC or the AES, there's a lot of different like things you can play, and there are a lot of passionate people that collect it. And not everybody has a podcast. Not everybody has a YouTube channel. Not everybody is the sort to like be showing it off, be Twitch streaming it, to be whatever. And also, it's one thing to see it, and it is definitely a good thing to see it. It's another thing to feel it in your hands and play it. And like yes, I'm very happy with all of the cool finds and buys that I did. Um, it scratches so many itches, and I'm super excited about all the stuff. This past weekend, I bought so much stuff for my new PSP, and I'm all about that. But getting the chance to play all sorts of games that I wouldn't get to normally, as well as the couple of rows of arcade games that they had. They had a lot of your classic cabinets, a couple of cool ones, and a lot of rhythm games, which is something that sure we can play on our phones. I mean, if anyone has ever played Groove Coaster on their phone, it is a fantastic rhythm game and one that I absolutely love. And I played the arcade version of it for the first time. I didn't even know they had an arcade version of it. I guess I'm a little behind. And Sarah had never played, and she's like, "What is this game?" And she kept wanting to go back to it. And one of the other pictures I posted on our Instagram was my sweaty mug after 3 games of Dance Dance Revolution, which is a huge part of my childhood, or at least of my formative adolescence, because the title of our podcast is taken from the arcade I used to go to every Friday and sometimes more often at Willowbrook Mall, where I first played Dance Dance Revolution 3rd Mix and followed it all the way to like Dance Dance Revolution Extreme. Maybe I played a little X there. I think they might have closed by then. And so I'm slightly more out of shape than I was when I was 17.
Yeah, I remember when I went back to my console version of Rock Band for the first time, maybe a year or two ago, after not playing it for a long time. And like after playing 3 or 4 songs, standing in front of the TV playing guitar, I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm tired.
What was more about it? Well, I mean, I try to keep in shape, and I work with kids for the most part, so I do a lot of running, jumping, lifting children. It was more the fact of there was a kinesthetic sense that was very rusty.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there was a lot of songs that I'm so used, like, I used to play all the time, and they require spins, so you have to look away from the screen. And so there was, like, certain motions that you would do that would make it a lot easier, that it has been over 10 years since I've regularly done those motions.
Right.
So it's just like, it's like going away from an instrument for a while and then coming back to it. You know that you know how to do this, but does your body remember you know how to do this?
Right.
But it was a lot of fun, and I'm happy that there was a period of time where no one was playing the machine. I wasn't holding anybody up. That I played. I got off, and Sarah was like, "Well, I want to play a game," so I played with her, and I got there. And then my friends Sean and Amanda got there, and Sean's like, "I want to play DDR," so I got up with them and played DDR.
For the record, if I were there, I would not have played. I have 2 left feet when it comes to DDR, and it is not a pretty sight.
It's okay. Well, the other thing is, I am not somebody who holds onto the bar very much. There were 2 Dance Dance Revolution machines, and there was a Pump It Up machine. And there was, folks of all skill levels of all kinds. I just have, like, I don't know whether you want to call it a snob thing, an elitist thing, or whatever. I see people that just, like, hold onto the bar for dear life, lean back, and just kind of, like, wiggle their feet around. And now they're playing very hard charts. But I at no point was the sort of person, and maybe it was just the community and the whatever at the time when I was playing. Like, if you did that, they would sneer at you. They'd be like, "What are you doing? At least buy the bar dinner first, geez, before you get all over it." And like you held it for safety. You held it for if you were in danger of, and I would do that. But it was just like, all right, let me just do as well as I can with my balance. But it's just the same. I get to see gamers of all types. And that's not a way that I play. But I am also not a regular player of dance pad games anymore. I play them at home, but that's not the same thing. So the thing about the old days, they're the old days.
Right.
So I got to relive some of mine, and everyone got to relive some of theirs and make some new stuff. I like it.
Yeah, it sounds like you had a great time at the convention. I was bummed to miss it, but I'm glad that you were able to be there on our behalf. Even though you go every year, you were able to go in some semblance of an official capacity this year.
Absolutely, and I'm happy to extol its virtues. Please keep going, keep doing this. I love it.
Yeah, and hopefully next year I will be able to plan more accordingly and actually go to the convention as well. Is there any other things about the con that you want to share before we wrap up this episode?
Okay, just so I don't sound like I'm doing nothing but like saying all the good stuff. the console tournament was a little poorly organized. It was definitely there was a console tournament sign that's like, all right, is this where I go for Katamari? Yeah. Find over there. That staff member with the clipboard. Okay, hi there. I had to track down Stephanie, the organizer, and so dealing with all of that. Once it was all up and running, it was good, and Stephanie did a great job, and appropriately encouraged and discouraged a good amount of trash talk amongst opponents.
Right.
And so that was good, but it was just like, it felt very haphazard. And it was Katamari, and all of us were just there goofing off. Like, that's not the kind of game that you normally do head-to-head. And I can only imagine how that might have played out when they did, like, the Smash 64 tournament.
Yeah, for sure.
But I didn't get a chance to see that. So that, like, there's raggedy edges that show because of its roots, and this was a move to a big venue, so they're figuring it all out. But I think the heart of the convention, the heart of its idea, is a very good one. And as much as I'm looking forward to, I am almost definitely going to MagFest next year. Whether we go on a press pass or I just buy a weekend pass myself. It's what I'm all like, music and games. It's what I'm all about. And I'm looking forward to going, but it's going to be a very different speed and a very different kind of convention. And I think something small but mighty, like a video game con, is important. And I'm very happy that we got to go.
Awesome.
We the podcast and me the person.
Right, of course. And I agree. I really want to go to MagFest. There are a ton of nerdcore related performers who perform there all the time. And so
absolutely.
I too think that I'm going to get a pass, whether we can get there on press or do a podcast live or something.
Yeah.
But I definitely want to get out to more cons, covering FlameCon for autographs, which you can listen to on my other podcast, Crash Chords Autographs. I covered FlameCon 2018, which is also on the smaller side compared to like New York Comic Con, and it's all LGBTQ related, and it was phenomenal. And it just reminded me that I don't go to enough small conventions anymore, so I definitely need to start doing that again.
I feel like they're a lot more about community. While the bigger ones are about the passion and the hobby and the pursuit, the smaller ones are about the community.
Yeah, for sure. As we wrap up, of course, please rate and review us on any podcast platform that you use, or all of them if you feel industrious and want to go to every single one of the platforms. We won't stop you.
We'd super appreciate that.
Right. Of course, a shout out to all of our Certain Point of View family members. We have a brand new family member, which is also another podcast I do because I have a problem.
You really do, dude.
I know, 4. I'm at 4 now. But I won't, and I've already mentioned one, so I might as well mention the other, Screen Snark, which I do with our mutual friend, Rachel Shank, but that's not the one that joined our family. The one that joined our family is Reignite, which is a podcast I'm doing with MJ Bradley, and it is a deep philosophical and societal dive into the Mass Effect series. We're playing characters from our own perspective and making choices the way we would make them. Mm-hmm. And they're discussing those choices as well as how well the game is aged. This Mass Effect is one of the earliest games to really give AAA gaming LGBTQ representation.
Yep.
But in the first game, it was still fairly limited. It grew from there, but
they smudged it in the first one.
Right, and it grows beyond that. But, so we're going to cover the whole trilogy and probably Andromeda at the end, which I'm still fighting against tooth and nail because I hear it's awful.
We'll see how long it takes. You might have to.
Right. But, so that's really exciting. Case had reached out to bring that show on the network, and so we're happy to be on the network for that as well. Of course, you can check out the flagship show, Certain Point of View, which is a Star Wars podcast about Star Wars media and Star Wars news, all Star Wars geekery, really. There's the podcast you're currently listening to now, Fun and Games, Scruffy Nerf Herders, which you mentioned earlier, which is a Star Wars D20 story with some narrative flair, and it's just an amazing way to engage in original Star Wars storytelling. So
yeah.
I highly recommend it.
Agreed.
And then finally, of course, another pass with Case Aiken, which, spoiler alert, Rachel Shank and MJ Bradley will both be guests on at some point in the nearish future. That is, of course, Case Aiken's podcast. We love being a part of this network. It's been a blast. We all support each other, and it's been hugely fun. Thank you, listeners, for listening. Feel free, as always, to interact on the social medias. Scoop Jessica, I saw your tweet the other day discussing... what was it now? I'm blanking on it, but she is one of the listeners that I'd like to feature because she interacts quite a bit, talking about RPGs and other stuff that she plays. But yeah, so please continue listening and enjoying. Thank you again, Geoff, for representing us at a video game con. Hopefully we'll both be there next year.
Oh, it was entirely my pleasure. And yeah, let's keep this conversation going. If you attended a video game con, let us know your thoughts on the whole thing.
Absolutely.
Let us know if there's anything that you want us to be talking about, not talking about, or where we should take this conversation next. We welcome the input with, again, this is all about community. Thank you for being a part of ours. Thank you for listening. I'm Geoff Moonen.
And I'm Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon.
And happy gaming.